Sacramento, California. The late 1970s. The American dream thrived in its suburban form. But darkness has a way of hiding in plain sight. In a small, tidy neighborhood, a monster walked among the people. He didn't stalk his victims from shadows or alleyways, he rang doorbells. He walked up to homes in the middle of the day, and he left behind scenes so gruesome, even hardened detectives were forever haunted. This is not just the story of a killer. It's the unraveling of a man, the spiral of a mind, and the bloody legacy of Richard Trenton Chase, the Vampire of Sacramento. Richard Trenton Chase was born on May 23, 1950, in Santa Clara County, California. To neighbors and strangers he seemed like any other boy. But even in early childhood, his behavior alarmed those close to him. His father was reportedly strict, often abusive. His mother distant. At home, Richard was introverted, isolated, and then came the signs. He wet the bed until his early teens, set small fires in the backyard. And most disturbingly, he killed animals, dogs, cats, even birds, sometimes dissecting them with what looked like medical precision. But it wasn't curiosity driving him. It was fear. Richard believed his heart had stopped beating, that his blood was turning to dust, that the bones in his skull were shifting, separating. These weren't lies or manipulations. He truly believed it. He would sit in front of mirrors for hours, watching for his pupils to vanish or his face to melt. His mind slowly was fracturing. By the time Richard's behavior became more erratic. In high school he was quiet, paranoid, and often smelled of alcohol. He believed people were plotting against him, that his blood was disappearing. He even told friends, if you can call them that he had a problem with his brain, that someone had removed parts of it. He moved in and out of psychiatric care throughout his 20s. At one point he told doctors he was being poisoned through soap, that his stomach was backward, that he needed animal blood to live. In 1975, Chase was institutionalized after injecting himself with rabbit blood. He contracted blood poisoning and almost died. But while institutionalized, things only got worse. He was nicknamed Dracula by the hospital staff because he would catch birds through the window and drink their blood. He was found with blood smeared on his mouth, feathers still in his teeth. But despite being labeled a danger to society, he was released. Why? Because he was cooperative. He seemed calm. On medication he smiled. So they let him go. Once released, Chase lived alone in a small apartment in Sacramento. His roommates had fled after he nailed shut the doors and windows from the inside. He accused them of trying to poison him. He bought small animals, rabbits, dogs, cats. He blended their organs with Coca-Cola and drank the concoction. He believed the blood would replenish what he had lost, that it would fix his broken insides. Neighbors complained about strange smells, but no one investigated. He was unraveling further. Now fully convinced that Nazis, UFOs, and the government were out to get him, he began to prowl the streets. He looked for homes with unlocked doors. It was just 2 days after Christmas. Ambrose Griffin, a 51-year-old father of two, had returned home with his wife. As he helped her unload the car, a beat-up brown Ford station wagon slowly drove by. Inside was Richard Chase, holding a .22 caliber pistol. Without a word, without a moment of hesitation, he fired. Ambrose fell to the pavement, blood pooling beneath him. The car drove off. It was senseless, random. The police believed it was a drive-by gone wrong. There was no motive, no connection. But Chase had gotten a taste, and now he wanted more. It was a Monday afternoon. Teresa Wallen was home alone, 3 months pregnant. Her husband was at work. She'd just taken out the trash. The door was unlocked. Chase entered with his pistol. He shot her once in the hand as she raised it defensively. Then twice in the head. She fell. But he wasn't done. He dragged her body to the bedroom. Stabbed her repeatedly with a butcher knife. Cut out her organs. Smeared her blood on the walls. Used a yogurt container to drink her blood. He defecated in the hallway. Left the door wide open. When her husband arrived hours later, he found a scene of unimaginable horror. 3 days later, Richard Chase struck again. But this time he escalated. Evelyn Miroth was watching her 6-year-old son Jason and her 22-month-old nephew David. Her friend Dan Meredith dropped by to check on her. None of them would survive. Chase shot Dan in the hallway. Then turned to Evelyn, who was in the bathtub. He shot her, mutilated her body, and bathed in her blood. He shot Jason in the head. Then abducted baby David. He left a trail of footprints and blood through the home. A neighbor, concerned about the noise, found the door ajar and screamed. Police arrived within minutes. But it was too late. Thanks to a neighbor's description and a woman who had sold Chase a puppy earlier, only to find out he killed and drank its blood, police had a suspect. They tracked him down. On January 29, 1978, Richard Chase opened the door to police. His shirt was stained, his breath foul. Inside the apartment was worse. The walls were smeared with blood. The refrigerator was full of animal organs. A blender full of red mush sat on the counter. Baby David's remains were found days later in a nearby field. The Vampire of Sacramento had been caught. Chase was charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder. His defense pleaded insanity. And the evidence was overwhelming. He spoke of Nazis, of blood, of invisible bones. But he also showed awareness. He covered his tracks, hid evidence. And the jury saw through it. After 5 hours of deliberation, the verdict: guilty. Sentence: death by gas chamber. But even in prison, the other inmates feared him. He was so unsettling that no one would sit near him. He would speak of UFOs and ask guards for rabbit blood. On December 26, 1980, Richard Chase was found dead in his cell. He had hoarded antidepressants and taken all of them at once. Whether it was suicide or just an escape, no one knows. What we do know is this: Richard Chase was not a typical killer. He didn't kill for joy or money or revenge. He killed because he believed he had to. Because his mind told him he was dying and blood was the only cure. His story is a reminder of what happens when madness is ignored. When cries for help go unanswered. And when monsters wear the faces of the forgotten. The Vampire of Sacramento may be dead, but his story lives on, buried deep in the shadows of true crime history.